The MT07 for many is the only naked bike that is worth owning. A critical darling when it was released and a formidable option today. So many people come across this bike as a potential first bike because until recently, it was the smallest naked bike you could buy from good old Yamaha. But now in a world where naked bikes are almost as popular, if not more popular than sport bikes, Rossi help us, it's starting to look a little long in the tooth. And even though you guys have probably seen loads of videos of me discussing this bike on my channel, from our giveaway FZ07 we did last year and our giveaway XSR 700 that is heading out in just a few days to its new winner, and I'm not crying. You're crying. God, I guess if you love something, you gotta let it go, huh? Click the link below to YammieNoob.co. Today we're going to take a look at the MT07 and see where it comes from, how it stacks up against the current crop of beginner-ish naked bikes, and where it might be going. I will be your guide on this adventure, the Gandalf to your Frodo, your wizened old sensei, Yammie Noob. We talk a lot about the MT07 until recently the FZ07 in America on the channel, and that's because it's always been a bit of a class leader. And yeah, I know it's a little bit bigger than most 650s, but Yamaha's always been a little bit of a cheater. Shh, I won't tell if you don't. Ever since it came out, it's been the standard to which other middleweight nakeds have been compared to. In other words, it's the bike that always comes after the Versus in those comparisons you spend your days watching instead of riding. And come on, my dude, just get out and ride your bike. You should probably shave your junk while you're at it. Oh baby, it transitioned so smooth you'd swear I used the Lawnmower 3.0 to trim it down. That's right, my dude, you cannot get fully torqued with your junk buried in a forest of pubes. It is just too much friction, so don't even try it. We also just got demonetized, so click that link down below and help us out. Fans of the Yam know Manscaped loves us and we loved Manscaped. That's because I am the world's greatest ball shaver salesman. That's not a title I wanted, but it was a title that was given to me. Seriously, my contact over at Manscaped keeps sending me a plaque every month, and I'm like, I already know how good I am at selling these ball shavers. Please end the madness. Why are they so great? 3 words: patented ceramic blade. These things could nick you if they tried, and they have just the right amount of cutting force to get the job done. It's actually pretty cool. And just for you, because you know I love you so much, you can get your Lawnmower 3.0 on the cheap when you click the link down below and use the code NOOB20. You get 20% off your order and free shipping. So don't say I never did nothing for you. So click the link below, use the code NOOB20, and get trimmed up today. This shit just works, I guarantee it. Now, kind of like the R3 we talked about a few weeks back, the MT07 hasn't really been around for that long, so let's take a look at the bikes you could buy if you were looking to get a middleweight naked in 2014. Well, starting with the big 4, you could pick yourself up a CB650F, which was a 649cc inline 4 making about 86 horsepower, which came with all the classic Honda build quality and the usual Honda premium. And from Suzuki, you could get the Gladius, which is basically just an SV650 with some cool tech sprinkled on top and hit with the ugly stick. It made 71 horsepower from its 645cc V-twin, and as we've talked about before, it was a bit of a flop because compared to the old SV650, it was ugly. Who says looks don't matter? And that was kind of it. You get a street 675 from Triumph, but given its price and power relative to others in the class, it compared more favorably with race replicas than other nakeds. But when the 2014 model year rolled into dealerships, oh boy, there were so many naked bikes you'd swear it was a strip club. Hyper nakeds explode out of nowhere, bikes like the 1290 Super Duke R and the S1000R leading the pack. It was really a turning point for the industry as we moved away from fully fared street bikes that you had to wind out to simple, upright bikes that made a stupid amount of torque. Not to be left out, Yamaha released its FZ09, which was an unwieldy animal that made 115 horsepower and had an extremely unpredictable throttle and that juicy 847cc inline triple that we all love so much. And then it's also baby brother, the FZ07. Now, a lot of people think that the FZ07 is the baby brother and it was outshined by the FZ09, but even reviewers at the time said that the FZ07 was actually the better bike. The FZ07 by comparison was underpowered, but it was way more manageable for people who wanted to get into riding rather than starting out on the crop of insane hyper nakeds that were available. It had a 689cc parallel twin that made 74 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque. But what really set this bike apart was a 270-degree crank that it used, which gave it way more personality than bikes like the SV650 and the CB650F. We've talked a lot about the 270-degree crank or crossplane crank a lot lately, but I think it's worth taking a short technical detour to discuss what it actually does for those of you who might be curious. Simply put, a crossplane crankshaft means that the pistons are set 90 degrees apart from each other. Take a look at this image. You see the crank throws are set at 0, 90, 180, and 270 degrees, or at 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock. deck tuners. This positioning means that no two pistons are firing at the same time. That's actually a really old idea going back to Cadillac in 1923. It's super popular in V8s and made the jump to motorcycling world in the Triumph Speed Twin in the 40s. Yamaha was the first to slap a crossplane into the parallel twin with the likes of the TRX 850 in 1995, but that is overshadowed by the release of the 2009 Yamaha R1, which was the first superbike to feature this type of firing order and which gave it its name, the Big Bang. But back to the FZ07, this new crankshaft combined with its light 395-pound wet weight made it a little screamer. It would happily rip wheelies all day long, and it first came out, people absolutely loved it. Brand new, it was $6,990, which meant literally anyone could go out and get one. It was pretty cheap. They were almost as disposable as how cheap they were. But with the low price came some flaws. I mean, you're not going to get everything you want for under $7 grand. I've talked about this before. The suspension was a major weakness, featuring a budget non-adjustable KYB front fork and a preload only rear shock. The best thing that can be said about the suspension is that it works. For the average rider or the beginning rider, it is more than enough to understand what motorcycling is, and it's going to get you there, but the engine is so much more capable than the suspension will let it go. If you start to push the bike, you feel a lot of squirming and wiggling, and it just doesn't feel planted and has a good flick in like other bikes do. Another common complaint was the front brake feel, which worked well enough, but when compared to other dual disc setups, it really underperformed. But who cares? When you can get a bike that has so much to offer for so little money, there was no competition. And something tells me that when you're cracking woolies, you're probably worried a little bit more about that rear brake than your front brake. The FZ07 has basically gone unchanged for the last 6 years. In 2018, they dropped the FZ moniker in the States to bring it in line with the rest of the world, and there's a LAMS approved version in Australia and New Zealand, but beyond that, the bike's more or less the same. But similar to the R3, Yamaha let the MT07 sit while the rest of the industry has caught up and surpassed it. Now in 2020, you can get a Kawasaki Z650, a Suzuki SV650, a Honda CB650R, and even Yamaha has the XSR 700. The Kawi makes 67.3 horsepower and 48.4 foot-pounds of torque, features a TFT display, a slipper clutch, and a modern suspension, all for $7,649. The CB650R is a premium option at over $9 grand, but it features a pretty track-ready suspension, a punchy inline 4 making over 80 horsepower, and without a doubt one of the sexiest looking naked bikes on offer nowadays. The SV650 has even seen a handful of changes following its release. Preload adjustable front forks to upgraded brakes, all for $7,099, all while Yamaha is charging $7,599 for a bike from 6 years ago. Don't get me wrong, it's a great bike, but you can only sell the same bike for so long. So what could Yamaha do to update the MT07 to get it back on top? Well, the first and most obvious place to start is the front brakes. I think an upgraded master cylinder would be a colossal improvement, and that alone might be enough to get some people to forgive the rest of the bike for being so old. Next, they have to address the suspension. There's no reason for it to be so weak when other companies have figured out how to give us a quality setup for only a few $100s more. I'm thinking about something like our Svartpillen 401 that we're giving away. That thing comes in at $5,000 and features a 43mm fully adjustable suspension from WP. Come on, Yamaha. Another easy change would be a new headlight and moving away from those floppy turn signals everyone hates to LEDs that you would find on the MT03. Seriously, Yamaha, it is time to let those lights from the 90s go off into the good night. No one likes them, and I'm telling you this as your friend. You're welcome. I could really see a world in which the MT07 is the same design ethos as the new MT09, MT03, and the MT10. It's the last bike that still has the single headlight on it, and I think it's going to be time for it to fall in line with the new bionicle look that all those other bikes have. I'd also like to see a general improvement to the build quality of this bike. I mean, it's fine. It's not like it's going to fall apart when you're riding, but there's a sort of general loosey-goosey nature to the bike, and the fit and finish is like a B+. A nice set of handlebar controls, a little flex out of the chassis, and some higher quality bits and bobs would do a lot to make the bike feel less like the budget option, though that's a double-edged sword. You can't expect a high-quality component from a bike while not seeing a bump in price. I mean, sure, bikes like the CB650R are nice, but they're almost $10,000 out the door. But as much as I love the MT07 platform, I see it basically staying the same for a long time. While Yamaha experiments with different motorcycles using the same engine, the Tenere 700 comes to mind, it's an MT07 with long travel travel suspension, completely different frame, ADV plastics, and Pirelli Rally Scorpions, but it's got that same rowdy engine. And between you and me, I am dying to take one of those out for a spin. I really think it's one of the best options for an ADV bike that's not going to cost an arm or a leg. I also see this engine being put into a fully faired race machine, something like the Aprilia RS660. There's already a very popular Twins Cup racing scene, so why shouldn't Yamaha make a bike that caters to that audience? Give us an MT07R, come on! The MT07 is a very competitive machine in Twins Cup for Moto America and is quickly replacing the SV650 as the starter track bike du jour. Hell, they could even slap the MT07 engine and a lightweight cruiser and literally pull out the rug from the Kawasaki Vulcan overnight. It's a power plant with a ton of potential and a lot of R&D sunk into it already, but while time and effort goes into developing these new bikes, the MT07 will likely sit as it is with little to no changes. And you know what? Maybe that's a good thing. You might have noticed we spent a lot of time talking about the future of this bike when normally we would devote some time to talking about the common issues that people have with their bikes, but the reality is that there just aren't that many. There was one recall in the FZ07 in 2015 where the positive battery lead might become pinched between the seat and the bracket that it sits on, exposing some of the wire, causing a short, but beyond that, it's basically bulletproof. All the issues we've seen on the forums are usually a result of someone doing something to the bike, like dropping it or smacking it into something. It's just reliable. One forum poster says that he hit a deer going 50 miles per hour and the bike still works, but sometimes the speedo doesn't work and the left turn signal went out. But the bike still runs and rides, which is the crazy part. But what should you expect from a bike that is literally designed for riders to grab it by the scruff of the neck and beat the absolute crap out of? We even gave away an FZ07 last year and the Cafe Racer version, the XSR 700, and they are both amazing bikes. Personally, my favorite part about the MT07 and XSR platforms is just how playful they feel. You really don't get that from an SV650 or a CB650R. They just want you to flick them around, maybe goose the throttle a little bit, and pop that front wheel up. If I had to choose one naked bike for the street and it was my only ride, I would be hard-pressed to not choose an MT07 because they really are that much fun. We've even got the new MT03 up for grabs right now on YammieNoob.co, and we also have, 5 other motorcycles you could win. Seriously, there's even an R1. Go and check that out in the link below.
Now, how you doing, partner? This video's over, but you click on this one right over here. You keep watching yourself some Yammie Noob. Maybe I bend my boost on this one. Maybe I'll give you some other funny memes or something like that. You might not know if you watch the video, so watch the video now, all right?